Good day and welcome to the news roundup for Wednesday, February 1. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, regulations and penalties on the New Road Traffic Act now in effect. 91 people murdered in the month of January. Woman found chopped to death in her yard in Hanover. House of Representatives approves another 60-day extension of zones of special operations in 7 communities. JCF and JDF placed on alert for possible deployment to assist Haiti. In business, government seeking to spend an additional $24.5 billion this financial year. In the region, St. Vincent named the 3rd least corrupt country in the Caribbean. Further overseas, up to 500,000 workers stage large coordinated strike action in London. And in sports, Jamaica Football Federation announces 20-member squad for CONCACAF Under-17 Championships.
Teach them! Always make sure the message reach them!
Now for the news in detail. Regulations and penalties under the New Road Traffic Act, RTA, are now in effect. Transport Minister Audley Shaw says this marks an important shift in the management of traffic offences. The RTA comes with a host of new penalties and stiffer fines to reduce the level of indiscipline on the nation's roads. Minister Shaw notes, for example, restrictions on the use of mobile phones and other electronic devices while driving. The Transport Minister further highlights that motorists will be denied various services such as license renewal if they have outstanding traffic tickets. As part of the new legislation, drivers were provided with a reprieve if their outstanding fines were paid before the new act came into effect or had made arrangements to clear them. This will allow them to avoid demerit points on their licenses. Minister Shaw notes that many are anxious about the status of their fines, but he is urging calm. And some transport operators have withdrawn their services in protest of the rollout of the New Road Traffic Act. The strike has been confirmed by Director of Communications of the One Voice Taxi Association, Oscar Finnekin. The strike is set to last for 3 days. According to Mr. Finnekin, the drivers want an extension of the payment plan given to pay outstanding traffic tickets. Meanwhile, the president of Transport Operator Development Sustainable Services, Edgerton Newman, has distanced his union from the strike and is urging his members to continue to work. 91 murders were recorded for the month of January, a 36% decline over last year. According to crime statistics released by the Jamaica Constabulary Force, this is a significant decrease from the 143 murders committed for the similar period last year. The statistics for last month also show that 71 people were shot and injured and 83 breaches of the new Firearms Act were detected. The police say 27% of the murders committed in January have been cleared up. Break-ins also saw a reduction, moving to 70 compared to 77 last January. The Clarendon Police Division recorded the highest number of murders for the month with 12, while St. James and Kingston Western were tied at 11 each. The Clarendon community of Tollgate has been left in shock following the shooting death of a 71-year-old shopkeeper. Alfonso Wint, otherwise called Doctor, of Decoy Road in Tollgate, was discovered last night inside his shop with gunshot wounds to his head. The discovery was made by residents who reported hearing explosions around 7:30 p.m. and went to investigate. Wint sold coconuts and cane along the roadway. A source says Wint was robbed of a large sum of money about 2 years ago when criminals invaded his home. The source adds that Wint lost his home at the hands of arsonists some 5 years ago. Up to January 29, 11 people were killed in Clarendon, 8 more when compared to the 3 murders recorded during the corresponding period in 2022. A total of 92 homicides were recorded in Clarendon last year. A well-known architect of Charlton Road, Kingston 8, was shot and killed in the Halfway Tree area of St. Andrew Tuesday evening. He is 42-year-old Ewan Darling. Police report that about 6:30 p.m., Darling was driving his white Nissan X-Trail sport utility vehicle along Skibo Avenue heading towards Cargill Avenue when a motorcycle with 2 men aboard drove up and the pillion opened gunfire, hitting Darling in the head. The SUV then crashed crashed into a wall, and the shooter went in front of the crashed vehicle and shot Darling multiple times in the upper body. The gunman fled the scene. Darling died on the spot. Investigations are ongoing.
On the bike, you see them a while ago when them go so. You see the bike when it goes so a while ago, man, but I never pay that no mind. So how do you turn opposite way upon there, sir?
Can't look at the man in parking, man.
But them just go in front there, man. So how then do that? Two bike man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 target, man. 9 get, man.
A woman was found dead with chop wounds in her yard in Lucy, Hanover, Wednesday morning. She has only been identified as Ferron, a 23-year-old security guard who was employed to Nets Security Company in Lucy. It is understood that she was from the Cold Spring community, which is also in Hanover. She was residing at a premises along Fort Charlotte Drive in Lucy. It is reported that sometime after 6 o'clock, residents stumbled upon the woman's body and called the police. Upon their arrival, she was discovered with multiple chop wounds all over her body. It is suspected that she was attacked inside her house by assailants, chased into her yard, and chopped to death. A teenage girl died in a suspected suicide in Portmore St. Catherine on Tuesday. The deceased has been identified as 15-year-old Daniel Johnson, a student of a Brayton Portmore address. It is understood that about 6 p.m. the child's mother returned home and found her daughter hanging. The St. Andrew South Police are investigating. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, is taking steps to respond to the recent flare-up of violence in the Area 4 Division. A surge in violence in the Kingston Central and Kingston West Police Divisions resulted in 10 people being shot, 4 fatally, on the weekend. Gang conflict is reportedly the main cause of the violence. Major General Anderson says some gang leaders are operating from overseas and they too will be targeted.
But we're also going to get those persons who believe that they are going to disrupt normal life in communities and cause violence to go up in Kingston again. We're not going to have that. And so we will be targeting directly those persons. So there are some persons named. There are also some persons, based on the intelligence briefing, who are abroad and are impacting the violence here in Jamaica. We already had given some of those names to our partners, and we will give some additional names to them, and we'll be pursuing them here and there.
The police commissioner notes that more curfews are being considered and says the JCF, along with the Jamaica Defence Force, will conduct deliberate searches of areas being used by gangs. The House of Representatives has approved another 60-day extension of the Zones of Special Operations, ZOSAs, established in 7 communities. ZOSAs are in place in Mount Salem and Norwood St. James, Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, August Town and Greenwich Town, St. Andrew, and Parade Gardens and Denham Town in Kingston. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says there have been positive outcomes from the ZOSAs. He says data confirms that the zones are contributing to a reduction of risk factors, increasing the competencies of residents, and improving the prospects of the beneficiaries. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Jamaica is participating in efforts by CARICOM and the Organization of American States to assist Haiti. Speaking Tuesday afternoon in the House of Representatives, Prime Minister Holness declared that Jamaica is prepared to, quote, support a united international effort in response to the persistent and deteriorating emergency, end quote, in the French-speaking nation. He said the government is also prepared to host bilateral talks and negotiations with Haiti's political leaders and civil society actors, given the long history of friendship between both countries. The Prime Minister added that Jamaica is willing to participate in a multinational security assistance deployment to Haiti to support a return to stability and peace. He noted that both the Jamaica Defence Force and Jamaica Constabulary Force have been alerted to this possible course of action and have, quote, started to plan for such eventualities as part of their routine situational awareness and response readiness, end quote. Haiti has been grappling with increased gang violence, political instability, and a cholera outbreak. Last week, rebel police officers rioted in the capital Port-au-Prince to protest the killing of more than a dozen of their colleagues by criminal gangs. 14 officers are thought to have died since the start of the year in various gang attacks on police stations. The government has terminated the contract of Chief Executive Officer (CEO) of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency (CPFSA), Rosalie Gage Gray. Sources say Gage Gray's termination letter was finally signed by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen after an almost week-long delay. The Public Service Commission had submitted its decision to terminate Gage Gray's services more than 1 week ago, based on report by the Office of the Children's Advocate (OCA) into the CPFSA's relationship with disgraced American educator Carl Robonsky. Following the release of the OCA report last month, the Minister with Responsibility for Information, Robert Morgan, said it would be difficult for Gage Gray to remain head of the CPFSA after she was accused of a gross breach of care for engaging Robonsky, whose teaching license had been revoked in the U.S. for inappropriate contact with a minor. The OCA report had recommended that disciplinary action be taken against Gage Gray for her gross breach of the duty of care owed to wards of the state and former wards. In business, the government is seeking to spend an additional $24.5 billion this financial year. This will increase the planned expenditure for the national budget to $998.2 billion, with 2 months to go before the end of the current fiscal year. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark tabled the third supplementary estimates for the 2022-2023 financial year in the House of Representatives Tuesday afternoon. He said the additional expenditure is primarily to facilitate payments under the compensation restructure for public sector workers, which accounts for $23.7 billion of the supplementary amount. Dr. Clark told the House the additional expenditure is being financed by projected increases in revenue. In the region, a 2022 report has concluded that St. Vincent is the third least corrupt country in the Caribbean. St. Vincent moved to 35, down 1 from its position of 36 in 2021. In the Caribbean, the island gained a score of 60 out of 100 points. The island had an overall rank of 35 on the list of 180 countries. The least corrupt Caribbean country was Barbados, while the second least corrupt was the Bahamas. Haiti was the lowest ranked Caribbean state with a score of 17 and an overall rank of 171, which it shared with 4 countries including North Korea. St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, and Belize were not on the list. On the international scene, up to 500,000 British teachers, civil servants and train drivers in London walked out over pay in the largest coordinated strike action for a decade on Wednesday. Unions are threatening more disruption as the government digs its heels in over pay demands. The mass walkouts across the country shut schools, halted most rail services, and forced the military to be put on standby to help with border checks on a day dubbed Walkout Wednesday. According to unions, as many as 300,000 teachers took part, the biggest group involved, as part of wider action by 500,000 people, the highest number since 2011. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak condemned the strikes. His government has taken a hard line against the unions, arguing that giving in to demands for large wage hikes would further fuel Britain's inflation problem. With inflation running at more than 10%, the highest level in 4 decades, Britain has seen a wave of strikes in recent months across the public and private sectors, including health and transport workers, Amazon warehouse employees, and Royal Mail postal staff. Next week, nurses, ambulance staff, paramedics, emergency call handlers, and other healthcare workers are set to stage more walkouts, while firefighters this week also backed a nationwide strike. The strikers are demanding above-inflation pay raises to cover rocketing food and energy bills that they say have left them struggling to make ends meet. And finally, in sports, the Jamaica Football Federation JFF announced a 20-member squad for the CONCACAF Under-17 Championships in Guatemala from February 11 to 26. 28 players in camp since last December make up the squad. The young Reggae Boys' first assignment will be 2 friendly internationals against their counterparts from Trinidad and Tobago on February 4 and 7. Head coach of the Jamaican team, Meron Gordon, says those 2 matches will give him and his technical team a chance to assess the players in a competitive environment. The Jamaicans are in Group G with Costa Rica, Cuba, and Guadeloupe. The semi-finalists will qualify for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Peru next year. Gordon says the players are in high spirits and notes that while the players are physically ready, they still have to do some mental work. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.
Teach them. Hey, yo, hello. Send the message and make it reach them. It's teach them. Right here. Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Like the video before you go. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And remember to share the video with your friends and family. And browse the channel for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friends.
Teach them.